Joe Rogan just confirmed that he will be interviewing the Donald J. Trump on his podcast, I believe tomorrow. So stay tuned for those clips and reaction clips. But here's Tim Pool's reaction to the woke media losing their freaking minds over this. Watch.
Here we go from the New Republic. Trump cancels all his events in favor of one of the worst people ever. This is my favorite headline for reading this story. Donald Trump will be sitting down with Joe Rogan. It's confirmed. We have this. I guess we don't have the tweet. Where did I retweeted it? I'll find it. It's here somewhere. It's a picture of. There we go. We got it from Joe Rogan podcast on X, and I'm like, this is Joe Rogan HQ. I believe it's his show, and he's got this image. Trump on Joe Rogan Friday, October 25th, and there's a Joe Rogan with an ish-eating grin, excited to interview Donald Trump. So the actual news here, of course, Trump will conduct an interview with Joe Rogan for his podcast. The question is, does this actually seal the deal? Or is there a reality where Joe gets some hard-hitting questions at Trump and then it spikes Trump's polls and then Kamala wins? I don't believe that's possible.
I don't imagine that that's going to be a thing. I think that most of the people that are actually viewers of Joe Rogan, I don't think that he has very many Kamala voters that actually watch his show. I can't imagine that there's a lot of people that are like, I'm with her.
Does Joe want his viewers to think that he's neutral? Does he want them to assume he's not voting for either party?
I think he does. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I imagine he does because he doesn't come out and say it specifically. He also does. He is fairly honest in his criticism. Like, he has no problem, like, saying critical things about Donald Trump. He's clowned on him before. Maybe it's just for comic effect because, you know, there's funny stuff that Donald Trump does that deserves to be poked fun at. But I do think that he is likely to be a Donald Trump voter. And even if he isn't, I'm confident that his viewers are largely Donald Trump voters, even if they aren't a significant majority. I can't imagine that like, you know,
RFK guys turned Trump guys, maybe more so.
Yeah,
like
I
Ian.
think so.
Yeah, he sort of strikes me. Joe is the kind of guy that instead of going on his show and being like, you all should vote for Trump, I'm going to vote for Trump, vote for my, he'd rather bring Trump on and let Trump speak for himself and let his viewers decide for themselves. That's his neutral impartiality part of his brain. Kind of, I think that's his preference, which is probably why he's going for it.
I don't get it because I like telling people what to think.
Yeah, but that's not Joe's style. That's not his style, right? He's not combative. He's not trying to be a journalist. He's trying to be like, you're talking like in a cigar room with your buddy, and this is how, right? Like,
I think Joe is voting Trump.
100% he's voting for Trump.
I think so too. And also people like Dave Smith and even Ian on the show, he's actually on this panel, McCrossan, I don't know what his last name. I'll show you guys him. I'm sure you guys know. They were kind of more libertarian and not really going to vote Trump, but they just confirmed they're voting Trump. So I think people that were questioning it and you notice them on Right Wing Politics podcast, they're probably going to vote Trump. I think that's a safe bet.
Trump. Right. But I agree with Ian that I think his approach for a while, I thought he was being just, you know, spineless, saying like, I'm like, why don't you just come out and say you're voting for Trump?
Dude, if word got out that he wasn't voting for Trump, I just imagine Dana White on the phone. Joe, what are you doing? Joe, come on, you know? Because, you know, I mean, Dana White and Trump are friends and stuff. So.
But I think Joe's going about it right. Joe didn't want to have Trump on before. He's going to have him on now. I think it's the right thing to do. He's doing it at the right moment. It is a couple weeks. This is going to be a week and a half out from the election. Joe Rogan is letting Donald Trump go on his platform and make his piece. And we know Donald Trump can hang in long-form podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Kamala Harris, not so much. She doesn't really have a lot to offer. She's done them, right? She went to Breakfast Club and she's done interviews, but I don't think she's going to get a pass from Joe if she went on his show, so I don't see her doing it.
Yeah, I can't imagine her being, because I mean, even though Joe wouldn't actually be combative, he would ask her questions that would make her uncomfortable. And if you look at just a little bit of pushback that she got when she was with Brett Baer, I imagine she would fall apart. And in a 2 to 3 hour conversation, I mean, I can't imagine her being able to hold up under that kind of scrutiny because she's just an empty suit.
I hope she does it, but I think you're right. Like, she kind of resorts to intimidation in her instead of persuasion. She'll get like that, well, what do you want? The other guy to win kind of. And Joe is indomitable. Essentially, in a conversation in his studio, you cannot intimidate that man. And he would be fully placid and in control of the conversation. And if she tried that babyish maneuver, he would be outed immediately.
And to your point, if he does end up being like in kind of control of the conversation, that automatically puts her in a bad light to be president, You know, I don't know that Joe's going to be trying to control the conversation with Donald Trump, but Donald Trump is going to be Donald Trump, and he's going to, take whatever Joe says, and he's going to go wherever the heck he feels like, and that's something that Trump does, and so that at least even if it doesn't seem like Trump is controlling the conversation, it's going to seem like Trump has his own agenda, whereas Kamala Harris, if he asks her something that makes her uncomfortable, she's going to be defensive, and that's going to look unpresidential.
Well, she doesn't come across well even when she's in control of the conversation, so I don't know that matters.
I love this whole Trump is exhausted narrative while he's like at a Steelers game or whatever, and Kamala took a day off. She's allowed to take a day off.
She's not taking days off. She's hiding.
Sure.
What it is, she's hiding.
By all means, but don't criticize Donald Trump as exhausted if you're not around.
Yeah.
Like if you vanish for a day for whatever reason that may be.
That's a good point. Very good point.
But I think, here's my thoughts. I think Joe Rogan will be voting for Donald Trump. That's just my opinion. The reason why I think that is Joe is an incredibly smart guy. He says on his show often that he's not a smart guy, and he does that because he's modest and he doesn't want to be an arrogant guy. He doesn't want to be the smartest guy in the room. And that's why people really like him. But when Joe talks about health issues and lockdowns, when he says RFK Jr. makes the most sense. Look, RFK Jr. is on Team Trump right now.
Yeah.
So Joe maybe he's like, I don't want to vote for anybody, but I really doubt it. But why then has he been so neutral? If you, and this is the reality, he comes out and says, go Donald Trump, I'm voting for Trump. There's going to be a lot of middle of the road people who are apolitical, who are going to be like, oh, I don't watch that MAGA. It could destroy the bridge between moderates and the right that would actually allow people to hear a non-establishment narrative.
But you know what? We need social proof. We need people like Joe Rogan showing this is mainstream, right? It needs to be a part of, the left has done such a good job at making people so ashamed of, in the privacy of their own voting booth, they still feel like they can't pull the lever for Donald
So true. By the way, those people need to grow a pair. Just saying.
Trump. That's what they've done. So I think this is this is not the time to sit on the sidelines and not say what you're actually doing, especially for someone like Joe Rogan.
Is he still with Spotify, or
Yes.
am I behind on
They have a new deal. So the Spotify deal ended, and they did a new deal where Spotify sells the ads for him. And I think the way it was reported that he gets a minimum guarantee. He posts the show on every platform, but the ads are controlled by the Spotify ad network or whatever.
He has overlords.
He doesn't need any more money. The guy doesn't need anything.
That's the thing too. I'm not trying to dig at Joe or anything, but I talked about this quite a bit. Like, what do all these ultra rich people do with their money? Because
Joe buys DMT.
Investments.
Joe, I could imagine that he does, but I don't know. He's probably so far beyond that, dude.
Yeah,
it's like
Beyond the veil.
there's probably
really
something
get beyond
called like XV5 DMT extreme.
Oh
and,
yeah,
you've never heard of
there's
it.
AMT. It's alpha methyltryptamine,
there we go.
and that's like a Russian super soldier
out,
drug.
Ian's
they
on
were
fire
experimenting
now.
with. It lasts for days. It's like highly illegal and all that AMT, but it does exist.
There was something that you mentioned. It slipped my mind now. Anyways, go ahead. Oh, sorry. I was going to make a point, but
All right, well, I'm going to cut it off there because that's all I wanted to show you guys. Of course, the woke media is freaking out that Joe Rogan, the biggest podcast ever, is going to have Donald Trump on. Trump can hang, Kamala can't, and it's as simple as that. Thanks for watching Bring the Asteroid. See you next time.